Victor made $61,000 a year, no inheritance, no six-figure bonus, no crypto windfall. He worked a mid-level logistics job in Ohio for most of his adult life. He drove a used Honda. He lived in a house with a mortgage he bought in 2009. His kids went to public school. He retired at 54. Before you assume there's some gimmick buried in that story, a lottery ticket or a house that tripled in value or a rich uncle, there isn't. What he did was boring. It was math. And once you see the math, you're going to realize that the story you've been telling yourself about why that's not possible for you is the only thing actually standing in your way. Because what I see every time I talk about retirement on this channel is this: people aren't behind because they don't earn enough. They're behind because nobody ever showed them how the math actually works. That's what we're doing today. We're walking through what makes retiring in 10 years possible on a normal income, breaking down what the numbers actually look like, and then building the exact roadmap: year 1, year 3, year 5, year 10. Most people think this is impossible, and the reason why matters. If you've spent any time around retirement content online, you've probably run into the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. And if you're like most people, you looked at it, saw people talking about saving 70% of their income and eating rice and beans for a decade, and immediately closed the tab. That reaction makes sense. The version of early retirement that gets the most attention online is built for people who already earn a lot. The software engineer making $180,000 a year who cuts expenses to $40,000, the couple with 2 tech salaries who go extreme for 5 years. That's real. It works. But it's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about is different. It's quieter. It doesn't require you to move into a tiny house or give up your car or explain to your family why you won't go out to dinner anymore. It requires a few things, and the first one is going to sound too simple to be real. Hold on until we get to the math, because the math is where this click. Before we go further, if you've ever watched a video on this channel and felt that moment where something just made sense, where a number finally connected to your actual life, hit subscribe right now, because what I'm about to show you is that kind of moment. I don't want you to miss the next one. Savings rate is more powerful than income. This is the part that breaks people's mental model of retirement. We've been trained to think about retirement in terms of what we earn. Make more money, retire sooner. That's the whole story most people carry around. But your savings rate, what percentage of your income you actually set aside, matters more than your income level. By a lot. A simple way to think about it: if you save 5% of your income, you're working for 19 years just to save up 1 year's worth of expenses. The math never gets better. You're always chasing. Raise that to 25% and you're saving 1 year of expenses for every 3 years you work. At 40%, you're getting there in 1.5 years. At 50%, just over a year. The jump from 5% to 25% doesn't require doubling your income. It requires changing what you do with what you already have. Victor's savings rate over the 12 years before he retired averaged 34% on $61,000 a year. That's just over $20,000 per year going into investments, not painlessly, consistently. I'll show you the math on what that produces in a few minutes, because the number is going to surprise you. The order you invest matters as much as investing at all. Most people know they should invest. What most people don't know is the sequence. Where does the money go first? The difference between putting $20,000 per year in the right accounts versus the wrong ones can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over a decade. The specific account order deserves its own video, so I'm saving that for next time. But here's the short version. The tax treatment of your investments is just as important as the return. If you're leaving your 401k match on the table, you're giving up an instant 50% to 100% return on money you already earned. That's not a strategy, that's a leak. The third lever is the one most people push back on. Your retirement number, the amount of money you need to stop working, is not calculated from your income, it's calculated from your expenses. The standard rule is 25 times your annual expenses. That's the number that, invested and growing, can sustain you indefinitely without the principal running out. Spend $40,000 a year, your retirement number is $1 million. Spend $55,000 a year, it's $1.375 million. Spend $70,000 a year, it's $1.75 million. When you lower your expenses, two things happen at the same time. You have more money to invest, and your finish line moves closer, both moving in the same direction. That's why savings rate is so powerful. It attacks the problem from both ends at once. Victor figured this out in his late 30s. He didn't slash his lifestyle to nothing. He ran the numbers, found a few categories where his spending wasn't buying him anything close to the value he was paying for, made adjustments, and redirected the difference. His annual expenses dropped from $48,000 to $38,000. That single adjustment moved his retirement number from $1.2 million to $950,000 and freed up an extra $10,000 a year to invest. Two levers, one decision. Let's run the actual numbers, because this is where theory becomes a plan, a realistic example, not best case. Not Victor's exact situation, because I want you to be able to apply this to your own life, not just believe it worked for one person. Scenario: $65,000 salary, 30% savings rate, starting balance of $10,000. Age 40. 30% of $65,000 is $19,500 per year. That's $1,625 per month going into investments. At a conservative 7% average annual return, below the historical average of the S&P 500, here's what that looks like. Year 1, $31,000. Year 3, $76,000. Year 5, $136,000. Year 7, $213,000. Year 10, $348,000. You might be looking at $348,000 and thinking that doesn't get you to $1 million. You'd be right if that was the whole picture. Most people in their 40s already have some retirement savings. The average 401k balance for someone in their early 40s is around $93,000. Add that in, and at the same 7% return, you're sitting at $548,000 after 10 years. Still not $1 million, but more than halfway there in a decade on a normal salary. The 10-year retirement goal isn't about a single investment account. It's about combining multiple streams of saved capital. Your 401k, your IRA, taxable brokerage, home equity if you own, alongside a realistic expense plan that meets you where you actually are at 50 or 54, not where a generic calculator assumes you'll be. Victor reached $940,000 in investable assets by 54, on an income that never exceeded $68,000 in any single year. His plan wasn't built around perfection, it was built around not stopping. If those numbers just clicked for you, hit the like button. I want to keep making videos like this, and that button is the single biggest signal that tells me to keep going. This is the section most 10-year plans trip over: lifestyle inflation. Every raise, every promotion, there's a version of you that absorbs the extra into a slightly bigger life. New car, bigger apartment, more eating out. None of it feels dramatic at the time, but over 10 years, it's the most reliable way to guarantee you never close the gap. The people who actually hit a 10-year retirement target are not the ones who earned the most. They kept their baseline flat while their income grew. That's the play, pausing investments during market downturns. In 2022, the S&P 500 dropped about 19%. I watched a lot of people stop their automatic contributions that year. They wanted to wait for the bottom. I understand that. It's not irrational to feel uncomfortable watching your balance shrink, but stopping contributions during a down market is the most expensive mistake in long-term investing. You're literally buying shares at a discount and choosing not to. The people who kept investing in 2022 saw their portfolios recover and then some. The people who paused are mostly still trying to catch up. On a 10-year plan, a down market is not a threat, it's a buying opportunity. Your contribution stays the same. Your account just buys more shares for the same dollars, holding too much cash. This one comes from good intentions. People build their emergency fund 3 months, 6 months, and then keep adding because it feels responsible. Cash earning 4% or 5% feels safe. And for an emergency fund, it should. Past that, every extra dollar sitting in cash is costing you the gap between 4% and 7%. Over 10 years, that compounds into real money. I covered this in a video a few months back, it's linked at the end. Never updating the plan. A plan you make at 40 and never revisit is not a plan, it's a hope. Income changes, expenses shift. Review it at least once a year. Victor checked his numbers every January. Once a year, am I still on track? What changed? What do I adjust? That discipline, boring and consistent and completely unremarkable, is what kept a $61,000 a year logistics worker on a path most people told him wasn't realistic. Most retirement content skips this part. It shows you the math, tells you it's possible, then leaves you with a vague instruction to start investing. So here's what an actual 10-year plan looks like. Year 1, foundation. Your only goal is to build the machine. Start with your actual expense number, not an estimate, your real monthly spending by category. Most people have never done this. It takes about 2 hours and it changes everything, because you cannot calculate your retirement number without knowing what you actually spend. Eliminate high-interest debt. Anything above 7% interest is costing you more than your investments are likely to earn. Pay it off before you invest past your employer match. Credit card debt at 22% is not a portfolio problem. It's a fire you have to put out first, then set up automation. Your contributions need to come out before you see the money, every paycheck. The single biggest behavioral change in personal finance isn't learning more, it's removing the decision. When the money moves automatically, you stop negotiating with yourself every month. Year 3, optimization. The machine is running. Now you tune it. Look at your tax situation. Are you maxing your 401k to at least the employer match? Have you opened a Roth IRA? If you have a high-deductible health plan, are you contributing to an HSA? The HSA is one of the most underused tools in retirement planning. Contributions go in pre-tax, they grow tax-free, and withdrawals for qualified medical expenses come out tax-free. After 65, you can withdraw for anything without penalty, paying ordinary income tax just like a traditional IRA. Most people treat it as a healthcare spending account. It's actually a retirement account with a healthcare bonus. By year 3, your balance should be showing you something that feels real. Compound growth becomes visible around this point. The balance isn't growing just because you contributed, it's growing because it's growing. Year 5, the honest audit. Are you on pace? Run the numbers against your retirement target. If you're ahead, don't touch the plan. If you're behind, this is when you make the hard call about what needs to change. At 5 years in, you likely have more career capital than you did at year 1. Are you using it? A move to a higher-paying role, a salary negotiation you've been putting off, a certification that opens a new income range. These decisions at year 5 can close a gap that passive investing alone won't close in time. Check your expenses too. Are there categories that crept up over the last 5 years that don't have to? Subscriptions, car payments, housing costs. Every dollar going somewhere that doesn't meaningfully improve your life is a dollar that isn't building your exit. Year 10, the transition. Retirement isn't a switch you flip, it's a transition. Some people stop working entirely, others move to part-time or consulting, not out of financial necessity but because they want to stay engaged or keep some structure in the week. What matters is that the choice is yours. That's what the money is buying, not leisure, options. Before you retire, work out your drawdown strategy. At what rate will you pull from your portfolio? In what order do you pull from different accounts to minimize taxes? How do you handle healthcare before Medicare at 65? Those questions get their own deep dive in a future video because getting the exit sequence right matters just as much as building the portfolio in the first place. Look, retiring in 10 years on a normal salary is hard. It asks for consistent decisions over a long stretch of time, and it asks you to make those decisions during years when spending more would be easy and completely justifiable. But it is not a fantasy. The math is real, Victor is real, and the gap between where most people are and where they could be is not income. It's information, and the choices that follow from having it. Subscribe right now, because next week we're going into the exact account order that makes this 10-year math work. The sequence matters more than most people realize. Get it wrong and you pay tens of thousands of dollars more in taxes over your lifetime. You don't want to miss that one. Drop your current age and your target retirement age in the comments. I read every one. And if you're watching this thinking, you should have started 5 years ago, the next best time is today. The math doesn't care about your past, it only runs forward. See you next week.